Hello and welcome to this session on world drumming and world percussion. I'm Kalani, music educator, board certified music therapist, and your teacher and host for the next few minutes. What we're going to be doing in this session is I'll be showing you the main hand percussion instruments we use in the classroom and we use in the World Rhythms curriculum. Those include bongos, congas, djembe, and the cajon, which I'm sitting on. You'll see that a little bit later. I'll also be showing you a lot of the common handheld percussion instruments, including shakers, blocks, bells, etc. I'll show you how to play them, what they sound like, how to identify them, also how not to play them, which is critical. It can be really important as well. So I'll show you some tips and tricks along the way. By the end of this session, you should be able to identify the instruments by sight and sound, know how to play them basically, and you'll have an idea of how to follow up. And I'll give you lots of links and resources so you can continue on your own study. So this is an introductory, kind of a overview boot camp to world drumming and percussion. I'll be showing you everything I just described. So let's get started. We're going to start with the conga drums. And the conga drums you saw behind me. I'll show you that in a second. Let's get into the technique. So this is our basic hand drumming technique, and what you want to do is start off with a tone we call the bass tone. So the bass tone is just this. It's a flat hand near the center, not in the center because that's a dead spot. We don't want to hit the drum right in the middle. We want to hit it just between the middle and the edge. And you're going to use your flat hand. Mainly the weight of your hand is going to be in your palm, and it sounds like this. And for this, it's a good idea to have the drums tipped or elevated off the floor. These drums have little stands. Some drums have legs, like the Sienta congas by Parapole. You can also tip the drum a little, or you can use a drum with what they call sound arches in the bottom. So there's lots of choices there. This is the bass tone, also sometimes called a dead stroke, but let's just call it bass. And you can do that in any drum, any of the sizes. And you can hear it's not a very resonant tone. It's more of a marker tone, or a tone that we use for certain accents when we play congas. The next tone is called the open tone, and that's the basic speaking tone of the drum. We're going to produce that by striking the drum with our fingers all together, starting with our knuckle line lined up with the edge of the drum here. Your thumb is either up or out of the way. It can be parallel to your fingers or out to the side, just so you're not hitting the side of your thumb on the rim of the drum. And that sounds, and I'm going to turn the volume down a little, that sounds like this. And you should just have a full warm tone. I love the conga drums because they're very warm sounding, and they're also a melodic instrument. That's why we have 2 or 3 congas. Usually in the classroom, you'll have 2 different sizes. It's very common to have 2 congas, usually tuned about a fourth apart. It's a very common interval, both in the bongos, timbales, the timpani drums, the congas. So you can start around a fourth apart. If you have 3 drums, maybe a fourth and a third, fourth and a minor third, something like that. These drums are closer together than a fourth, but that's okay. There's another tone that we play called the slap tone, and for the classroom, for elementary, you're probably not going to need to get into that tone, but here's what it sounds like just for your own reference, and here's how to play it. You're basically going to take your flat hand like you did for the open tone, and you're going to let your hand relax. And what happens when you relax your fingers is they naturally curve. And then if you use that curved, relaxed hand to strike the drum, you bring out a harmonic of the head. It's a shorter, brighter sound, a little crisp, and it's perceived of as a higher pitch because we're basically changing the formants or harmonics of the head. So here's the open tone, and here's the slap. So those are our 3 tones we play on the congas, and like I said, those are congas right there. These are the Tycoon World Rhythm congas, which are a little bit smaller, a little more suited for the classroom, and they also have stands, so you don't have to worry about them tipping over. Conga drums are a Caribbean instrument. They're usually made of wood, slat construction. They come with natural skin heads. You can see these have bison skin. Usually there would be cow, calf, maybe mule skin. The hardware is metal, and they're tightened by using a open-ended crescent wrench like this one. Never use pliers to tune conga drums. I have videos online and in the World Rhythms collection on how to tune conga drums. All of that is covered in there. So we're not going to cover that here. But those are congas. I recommend starting off with a pair of congas or 2 different sizes. You could go up to 3, but 2 is plenty. Very common. And what you can do to research conga drumming, well, just type in conga drumming, of course. But I recommend you look into salsa music, watch some videos, watch some salsa bands. You could also look into rumba, which is rumba wawanko, for example, or different styles of rumba, which are the folkloric or more African-influenced style of music that use conga drums. All right? Conga drums, the word conga has to do with the rhythm, the conga rhythm. We call them conga drums in Cuba. They're called tumbadores. And of course, there might be a reference to the Congo or drums from the Congo or Congolese. There are some different types of drums that are played in the Congo. Congas, as we know them, really are a Cuban, island, Caribbean creation, in as much as they're made with metal hardware and slat construction like barrels. All right, the partner to the conga drum are the bongos. So let's look at the bongos right now. I'm going to change my setup a little bit. You have a side view over here, and you know that the bongos are 2 small drums connected in the middle. These are typical size. I've got these on a stand, of course, and I recommend for the classroom or for you for starting off that you use a stand. You can use a stand like this, which you could play standing up for children or adults. You can raise and lower the bongos. Or use a shorter stand, which would be a sit-down stand that takes all of the responsibility of holding the bongos between your legs, which would be the traditional way to play them, takes that away, takes that off the table, makes it easier, more comfortable, more sustainable, because the bongos are a little bit heavy. You don't want to put the bongos right on your lap because you're going to block the resonance. You'll cover up the bottom of the drums, which is not ideal. Let's look at I'm going to adjust my top camera in a second, but let's look at the technique from over here for now. So we're going to play the bongos like this with the small drum on the left and the larger drum on the right. These are essentially flat because I'm sitting. If I was standing, I would actually tip them away from me a little, because usually they would be tipped away from the player because they'd be holding them between their legs. Don't tip the bongos towards you, because then your wrists are going to be bent. So make sure that however you're seated, standing, you want the bongos so that this is essentially flat. It's a straight line all the way from the elbow to the fingertips. That's ergonomic, that's comfortable. We're going to play the bongos with our fingertips and our fingers together. The basic sound is like this. I can use my fingers as a group, or I can play, like I like to play with my index fingers primarily. And I'm going to spend one moment and adjust the overhead camera so you get a little bit better view of what I'm doing here. Here we go. So this is fingers, index fingers, and here's all 3 fingers. Usually when we play the small drum, we're backed out to the edge a little bit, and on the large drum you can be more onto the head using more fingers. Now let me show you a tip. If playing with your hands and fingers is a little uncomfortable, or it's just, yeah, it can be a little uncomfortable, for the novice player, people that don't spend a lot of time. I want to give you a happy tip. This is a little, spatula. I got this at Sur la Table. How awesome is that? But what you can do is, before you use these, you want to glue this on, all right? Because these will fly off. They're not really glued on. They're not made for this. But listen to this. So that, my friends, is a wonderful tip, and who knows what you could cook up with that. So you can get these spatulas, very inexpensive. Get a few of these. They're really pretty durable. So I recommend that for your younger kids or just anyone who wants to play the bongos and not experience discomfort. All right. So you can hear how I have these tuned, right? The small drum, or what's called the macho head, is very high, very tight. The hembra, or what they consider the female head, this male and female, is tuned to match. It's a little bit lower, but still pretty tight. So you want to tighten up your bongos. What I've noticed is a lot of people don't tune the bongos up high enough. So make sure the sound is tight and bright, and then they'll be a little bit louder. They'll kind of cut through. Now I'm talking traditionally. Now, of course, any of these instruments you can tune however you want, or however your students want. If you're using them in a non-traditional format, tune them however you want, whatever you like. But when you do tune them, make sure you keep the amount of tuning the same all around the drum, so that, for example, if I was tuning this drum up or down, I would tune 1, 2, 3, 4. I would tune them the same amount, right? So the head stays even. You don't want to have the rim here getting cockeyed, or having a lot of collar, this is called collar right here, the distance between here and here. You don't want that to be lopsided. Just like the congas, you're going to use, usually it's a 13 millimeter open-ended crescent wrench to tune the bongos up and down. So just make sure you go the same amount when you do tune them up and down, and you should be good to go. So bongos, also a Cuban instrument. These really, as they are now, these modern bongos with wood shells and the metal hardware are a Afro-Cuban or Caribbean instrument. Not to be confused with Moroccan bongos, which are kind of a clay pot touristy kind of thing that you buy at Pier 1 Imports. All right, bongos are played in salsa music primarily, not so much in the traditional. You're not going to see them in the folkloric music as much, like the rumba wawonko, like I mentioned earlier. Bongos, of course, are ubiquitous these days. They're used in all sorts of music, all styles of music. But if you want to see traditional bongo playing, which I recommend that you do, spend a little time researching that, listening to it, enjoying the bongos. Again, find them in salsa music and watch the bongo player and see what he or she is doing. Really exciting, fabulous instrument, and really useful for traditional and non-traditional music. Okay, let's move on, and we're going to cover another instrument that I'm sure all of you are familiar with, but some of you may not know how to play, and that is the djembe drum. And I've got a djembe right here. Now this is more of a, not entirely traditional, but a traditional style. It's wood. It's got rope tuning, which is the professional standard, traditional and professional standard. And it's got a goatskin head or natural skin head. This is also from the World Rhythms collection. I'm going to show you how to sit with it, how to play it, how to hold it. But I do want to point out that djembes are traditionally made of wood. This is a West African instrument from the Susu and Malinke ethnic groups from southern Mali and Guinea, a little bit in Burkina Faso, a little bit in Senegal, but primarily Guinea and southern Mali, from the descendants of the Mali Empire, or what is known as the Mande-speaking peoples. You can research that further on your own. Right now, let's look at the drum. And I want to point out again that it's got the natural head. It's got a couple different metal hoops in here. There's one here and there's one under the skin here. You can see the rope tuning, and I know this might be intimidating, but if you can tie your shoe, you can tune a djembe. Don't worry, it's all fine. And I've got videos on how to tune a djembe. There's lots of them online. There's one on World Drum Club. There's tuning videos as part of the World Rhythms curriculum. It's not that hard, all right? I show people all the time. It takes about 2 minutes to learn how to do it. And once you can tune a rope drum, it's very simple. And it's exciting for your students to learn how to do that as well. Something that they can absolutely do. It's not difficult at all. Okay, so let me show you in the overhead camera. I'm going to adjust this again. And we're going to zero in on the djembe drum. Bear with me. I'm operating lots of equipment. So this is our djembe, and I'm holding it. Let's go to the side camera again. I'm holding it between my legs, and I'm placing it on the floor, and it's tipped like this, a little bit forward. Okay, so what you're going to do is you've got two basic tones, well, three basic tones, just like the conga drums. We've got our bass tone. And again, you don't want to hit the drum right in the middle. You want to hit it in this third, kind of between the middle and the edge. Flat hand. See, the weight of my hand is here, and I'm striking it in that zone right in here. You just want to have your hand inside the drum, so not out here. It's just here. And then the open tone. Thumb is out, fingers are together. We're going to bounce off the head. And you can hear that the djembe is tuned a bit higher than the congas. It's a brighter sound. And then we also have the slap, just like the conga, relaxed hand. So super fun drum, really exciting. I recommend that you also look into the dundun drums. I'm not demonstrating them right now. They are demonstrated and they are part of the World Rhythms music. The dunduns are bass drums, double-sided, double-headed. They look like big logs, and they're the heart of the music. They're really like the bass and drums of the band. You know, they drive the music. They give the rhythms their identity. So go look up dundun music, or dunduns, D-U-N, D-U-N, and research that on your own and go watch some videos. I'll leave a couple links, but I just recommend searching for djembe ensemble, malinke drumming, susu drumming, djembe and dundun drumming. You can search it up on your own and find the dunduns. So the dunduns are played with sticks. They're just bass drums. Very fun, very cool. Your students love that. And the dunduns also, kind of a fun fact, they also leave the fur on. They usually have cow skin or thick goat skin, and they leave the fur on. It's very awesome. So that's the djembe. And where is the djembe from? It's from West Africa, but it's really from the descendants of the Mali Empire, Malinke and Susu ethnic groups. Not all over West Africa, because of course West Africa is a gigantic area. Wood, rope, natural head. That's traditional. Let's go on to our last drum that we're going to look at, and that is the cajon. And the cajon, well, I'm sitting on it right now. Here's what it looks like. This is a Kopf cajon. It's a box. It's got a nice cushy top. And this is called the tapas, the head. I'm going to play it for you right now. And again, let me see if I can scoot up. I've got to adjust the camera a little bit. Yeah. So let me do that. And then I will show you what I'm doing down here. All right. So I'm going to meet you in the overhead view. Okay. So I'm sitting on the drum. I've got my feet flat on the floor, as you can see. And I'm going to play in the top area right here. I'm going to do a nice fat bass tone with my palm. Let's turn it up a little. Now, one thing I love about the cajon is it's like a drum set in the box. So you've got a really resonant bass. And we're doing that in the same technique as the other drums. It's just we're doing it in this angle instead of flat in front of us. And then for the high tone, I'm going to the corner, and it's very simple. You just kind of hitting the top corner of the drum. Now, I know you might be asking, well, are you hitting here and are your fingers kind of whipping down? I don't think of it that way. I just think of, hitting the top. You don't want to jam your hand down onto the corner of a drum if you can avoid it. So I would avoid thinking that way and just think about striking the top corner of the drum. You can do other techniques on the cajon. You can play with your fingers. You can do muted strokes. You can do muted strokes down here. You can play this way. Some people do basses like this, like they're grabbing something. I usually do palm. You can tip back a little. You see I'm tipping back. Now that is more the Cuban style, Caribbean style, the Spanish style, which is with flamenco music. They usually keep it flat on the ground. This cajon, you may have noticed that there's a little bit of a buzzing sound, a snare sound, right? That is because there are snares on the head. That is the flamenco or Spanish style. The Afro-Cuban or Caribbean style, usually they don't have snares. This drum actually has both front and back. If I turn it around, I get the non-snare sound. I like the snare sound, so I usually leave it on, or I usually play with the snares. I'm hoping we're not getting a lot of distortion in the mic. I'm doing my best to balance the sound. I love the cajon for the classroom. It's, well, for a lot of things I do. I use it in my music therapy practice. I use it in music instruction. It's a great instrument, even if you just have one that you could play or your students can play. In the world rhythm set, we have a large size and a smaller size. Because it is hard, because you're sitting on it, so you can't really adjust your seat because your seat is the instrument. The cajon is very popular now. You see cajon in all sorts of music, from unplugged, singer-songwriter or rock concerts, all the way to folkloric music, Spanish flamenco, Afro-Cuban, rumba, all sorts of music. People are playing cajons. So I recommend that you look into the cajon, that you educate yourself on the cajon, how to play it. I've got a lot of videos on World Drum Club about the cajon, and of course it's part of the World Rhythms curriculum, so there's a whole instructional video on the cajon. But what I do like about it is like a little drum set in a box. It's durable. You don't have to tune it. It's very simply made. You can stack them. You can store them very easily. I won't tell anyone if you want to store instruments inside it. I don't really recommend that, but I'm not going to tell anyone if you do. Like little shakers and things like that. Nothing that would damage it, of course. So it's a great little instrument, and there's different types of cajons. There's different shapes, and people now are making all sorts of different cajons, from bongo cajons, little tiny ones that you can walk around, you can wear and walk around, like cajon tab, all sorts of different options. All right, so look into the cajon and maybe get one or two. You can start off with a small one, and get one for yourself, though, that you can use when you teach. I use them a lot when I'm just teaching a song, or I want to provide a foundation rhythm for something for people to add on to, or to just get the feeling of a song while we're learning how to sing the song before we add other instruments, etc. All right, so look into the cajon. I think you'll find it's well worth it. Now we're going to transition to handheld percussion, and I've got a few instruments here. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, but I want you to know that these are all covered either on the World Drum Club channel or in the World Rhythms curriculum. Let's start with an instrument that is really common, the tambourine. And even though this isn't, this is more of an American instrument or a European instrument, it actually comes from Turkey. The tambourine is an Arab, Egyptian, Turkish, Middle Eastern instrument. This, of course, is more of a modern version because it doesn't have a head and it's a crescent shape. But I want to show you some basic techniques. So you're going to hold the tambourine like this, right? Hold it just like that. And of course, you're going to shake it back and forth like this. And you can strike your palm. A really simple place to start, though, is just hold the tambourine at a little bit of an angle and then just tap it, right? We're using a drumming action to tap the tambourine. Notice I'm not moving the tambourine when I do that. So you have a holding hand and a playing hand. And this goes for all of these instruments. So if you want to start off easy, remind your students that they're not doing this, right? We're not doing that. We're doing this. I know it seems obvious, but it's not always obvious. So holding hand, playing hand. Then if you want to do something more advanced, then you can move the tambourine. This would be for, you know, well, any of your students who are ready to do that. Shaking with accents. And then later on, or you could try this if you want to get fancy or some of your students are ready, accents on both sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to play accents this way, and then we're also going to play an accent on the way up. So upstroke. Okay, I know that's a little bit much right now, but it's a goal, it's something you can work towards. All right, so that's your tambourine technique. Let's move on to another common instrument, but one that I think a lot of people they don't know exactly maybe how to play often, and that is the cabasa. So let's look at the cabasa. The cabasa is a modern instrument. It's kind of modeled after the afouché, and the cabasa, you're just gonna put your hand, put that in your holding hand, and then turn the handle. You can also play it like this, like a shaker, and do some accents. Like that. All right, next instrument is the maraca. So maracas, I'm going to just demonstrate one right now. Obviously, you can do a drumming action. Down strums or down. I'm playing too much ukulele. Down. Simple, right? So remember, these are all drumming actions. It's just tapping. Same thing. Horizontal to the floor. Parallel to the floor. Horizontal. And then, if you want to get fancier, you could try shaking like this. And then for the classroom, I like these a lot. These are smaller, or medium-sized plastic maracas. And again, you're going to do your drumming technique, drumming action. Just back and forth. This is a great place to start. Just an easy, steady rhythm. And what I recommend you not do is try to play where you're changing the direction. So if you want to use a reciprocating motion, which is a great idea for a lot of these instruments, use a back and forth motion, but one that's continuous, and then just shape it with accents. Right? Simple, nice sound. It's got a nice contour for a rhythm instrument, and that's all you need. Just leave it at that, and you're good to go. All right. Similarly, we have the shaker. I've got a couple different shakers here. Let me show you both of them. This is our standard, what we call a tube shaker. Obviously, it's a tube. You're going to play it back to and fro. And I want you to pay attention to how little I'm moving when I'm not doing the accents. You see that right here? Almost no movement. So we're going to accent, ba ba, ba ba, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. I'm using a little bit of arm and a little bit of wrist. And my challenge for you and my hope for you is that you can get to the point where you can play shaker and it sounds like this. Ba ba, ba ba, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. Because that is standard, that is musical, that is inviting, right? It makes you want to do something, makes you want to join in or sing along. It's just the difference between something that's plain, super plain, and something that's just got a little bit of something in there, which makes all the difference in the world. And it's just accents, that's all it is. So try that. I've got several videos on how to play shaker. You can look that up later. But that's what I invite you to do. Let's look at another, and this will be our final shaker instrument today, and that is the caxixi. Now the caxixi is, oh, and by the way, the shakers, the maracas are Cuban. The tube shaker is, we associate that more with Brazilian music, and they call the chocalho or the ganza. So you can look that up. Brazilian music has the shaker, the tube shaker. Latin music, salsa, has the maracas. Now we're going to look at another instrument that's associated with Angola or Brazilian music, northern Brazil, and that is the caxixi. There's also a similar instrument used in the West African ensemble called the shakere. Similar, not exactly the same. This is a caxixi, so we're going to use this. We can use it for both West African and Brazilian. I mean, we can use it for whatever we want, but I'm saying the way we play it, I'll show you the two ways. So, most important, right off the top, everyone, do not play the caxixi like this, all right? Or whatever the handle is. Don't flip it upside down and hold it by the handle and play it like a maraca. Two things are going to happen. One, you're not going to get a great sound. And the other thing is you're going to destroy the instrument because this handle is going to start to break off. So please don't do that. If you want to play the Brazilian style, hold it like a shaker, like this. And you can shake it like this, and you can play accents by turning back and forth. So I'm just rotating 90 degrees. I can turn it down, away from me to play downbeats, and I can turn it towards me to play upbeats. But start here, or like this. And now, if you want to do the West African technique for the shakere, that would just be this way, holding onto the handle and going straight down. So you can do that, or like this. All right, either way. Sometimes you get two. You can get two of them going. And you'll see that if you watch the music, if you watch the videos of people playing the music, you'll see people playing the shakere, and you can find some people playing the caxixi. So go research that. I love both of those instruments. Highly recommend you have some, but be careful and teach your students how to hold them properly so that the instruments last for a long time and they get more enjoyment out of it. Now, We're going to move on and look at some blocks, just a couple wood sounds. Just going to do a couple, the main ones. Let's start off with woodblock. This is a woodblock. Now with the wood sounds, excuse me, with the wood sounds, what I want you to do is, first of all, note that they are made of wood, and they're a little destructible. So you never want to hit anything wood with metal, right? We're not going to use triangle beaters or anything like that. Just use wooden sticks. Now what I like is a simple wooden stick like this, and I'll tell you how to make these in a second. You can use these sticks that have the ball in the end. A lot of these come with these sticks, but I don't recommend them. The wood tends to be brittle, the balls break off, and no professionals use anything like this. So this is just a kind of stick that comes with a lot of instruments for the classroom. And while that's okay, it's not necessary, and there's no precedent in the professional world for that, right? So nobody plays with these who are percussionists. So what I recommend instead is just use a simple stick like this, simple wooden stick. Let me get it in the camera. Yeah, just something like that. This is actually half a timbali stick. These are sticks that I came up with a while back. It's a half a timbali stick. And what you're going to do is just play on the top or the edge like this. So either here or here. Just like that. And you'll get a nice tone. Now it's the same thing. We're going to move on and look at the tone block, also sometimes called temple blocks, and that is this kind of instrument. If you have access to a Chinese instrument supplier, you might see the beautiful red temple blocks. They have fish carved on the sides. There are temple blocks that are modeled after that are more modern, that are more rounded. But you might see the square type too, or the box type. This one has a handle or mount. It's a mount, not a handle, built onto it. So it looks like that. And you can mount that on a stand. However you're mounting it, or if you're holding it, you can also hold it like this. I want you to do the same thing you did with the wood block, and that is you're going to strike it across the edge here with your stick, like that. And that way you get a nice tone. You can hit it there. You can also hit it on top if you want something brighter and sharper. All right. I'm playing very light because I have one mic and it tends to distort if I play loud. So that's temple block or tone block. And what you can do is you can make your own sticks. This is a little stick that I think it was a mallet and the head fell off. So you can use that. I like the little thin sticks, like even thick wooden chopsticks would work well too. I like those for indoors because a lot of these instruments were never designed to play indoors. They're outdoor instruments, especially the bells. I mean, they're cowbells, right? I'm pretty sure cows are outdoor pets. A lot of the instruments, especially with the Afro-Cuban, the Brazilian, the West African, they're playing outside. These are not parlor instruments. These are not church instruments or indoor cathedral instruments. These are outdoor instruments. That's why the rhythms are faster, everything's more complex, because you don't have the issue of a lot of sound reverberating in a big church, for example, which is why church music is like it is, because it has to be, because there's just, you need a lot of time for the music to develop, and you can't really have a lot of complexity rhythmically, otherwise you just have a jumbled mess. Outdoors is a different situation, also for the volume. So be mindful of that, and one way you can reduce the volume of your percussion overall is to use smaller implements, smaller sticks. You can get thin timbali sticks like this, cut it right in half, now you've got two little sticks, perfect. You can also get PEX tubing and cut the PEX tubing in half, like 1/4 inch PEX tubing, or 3/8, it works great. They're indestructible. It's super cheap. I have a video on that, so you can look that up. All right, that's what I would recommend for your striking the instruments. We're going to look at another instrument that you know, of course, which is the claves. Claves are the two pieces of wood. You're going to hold one in your hand this way, right? Just cradle it. Let me go to the side view so you can see. So here, and just hold it like that. Sorry, I know it's a black background. And then you're going to strike the other one on top, right? Just like you're hitting a stick. And again, holding hand and playing hand. Here's the view again. Pretty simple. Never, ever hit another instrument with the claves. These are not sticks. I mean, they are, but they're not. These are not drumsticks, all right? So let your students know the claves, you might think they're like big fat drumsticks. They're not. If you hit bongos with the claves or a djembe with the claves, you could easily break right through the head. It's not a good practice. So same with lumi sticks or lummi sticks. Those are not meant for hitting other things. So be mindful, be careful, be informed. Claves are to hit each other, and that's it. All right. So that's the clave. Now that wraps up the wood sounds. We're getting into the home stretch, and now we're going to look at some bells, some metal sounds. Let's start off with one that we all know. And again, I'm going to use my little tiny stick because the bells tend to be kind of loud. Cowbell technique. You're going to hold it like this in one hand. You can have your thumb on the top a little bit, and you're going to strike it across the mouth of the bell, just like that. Let's get it where you can see that. All right. You can also play on the top with the end of the stick for a higher sound. All right, same thing goes for the larger bell. This is a mambo bell, but I just realized there's another bell inside. All right. It's a baby bell. All right. So the small bell we call the cha-cha bell, and then the large bell we can call the mambo bell. Yeah, just call it the mambo bell. And the mambo bell is another animal. That is same technique though. See, I'm holding like this, right? Got my finger on the back, and it's stable. I've got a good hold of it, and I can play on the end. And I can also mute and unmute with my finger, right? So I can play. So you got a couple different sounds there. So you can explore that. I'll leave that up to you and your students. Now, a couple interesting bells. I'm just waiting for these to fall down over here. And that's okay. Here is a double bell that we use in the World Rhythms curriculum as well. This is called the agogo. And the agogo is super fun. It sounds great. Here's what it sounds like. There's a couple things you can do with this. So you can hold it here with the bells away from you. Slight angle, so not directly, not like that, but like this. And then you're going to play here and here. So, because there's a seam right here, so we're not going to play on the seam. We're going to play right here. And one of the things you can do is you can click them together. That would be a little more of an advanced technique, but try that. You can look up people playing agogo. what I'm doing there is just clicking in between the strokes that I'm striking the bells. Pretty simple. There's a few different sizes. And the agogo, our Brazilian instrument, here's some bigger pair. This would be more like a standard, I guess, professional size, larger size. All right, super fun. Now I know some of you might be thinking, well, isn't that like the gankogui? Well, not really. I mean, it is. It's two bells, but this is gankogui, and this is a whole different instrument, different country, different music altogether. The agogo is used in Brazilian music, bossa nova, samba, baião, all kinds of different styles. The gankogui is Ghanaian, used in Ewe music, gahu, and that does have two bells. Lovely instrument, a little bit different. So not the same thing, two different things, but I know some of you may have gankogui in your classroom. If you want, you could substitute the gankogui for the agogo, but just know that that's what you're doing, so that you're not, replacing the agogo with gankogui and your students think that that's a Brazilian instrument. So the gankogui, again, West African, different than the djembes and dunduns. So you can research that and find out more about that. I do want to show you one more bell, and that is this one, which this is one of the bells from West Africa. It's a West African style bell, and it is used on the dunduns. These are called ken-ken, K-E-N. And these are usually played with a bolt or a triangle beater. These are played with metal usually. You can, if you're going to use these though, I recommend just using wood like this. But I wanted to just show you this. I know many of you are not going to have these bells. You can get them, and that's a very high-pitched, usually played on the top, right? Not on the end. So if you're doing djembe drumming, djembe, dunduns, etc., seke, then you could look into getting some of these. You could emulate these by playing on the top of the cowbells. And that is pretty much what I have for you in this presentation. If you want to look into the World Rhythms program a little more, Kalani's World Rhythms, you can do that. I'll leave a link below. But whatever you do, I hope you enjoy using we call world drums and percussion. This is really about the drumming from the Caribbean, from part of West Africa, from part of Brazil. That's my specialty. That's what we do in the World Rhythms curriculum. Of course, there are many other ways you can use percussion, but let's review quickly what we covered in this session. We looked at conga drums, Afro-Cuban instrument, techniques, construction, tuning. We looked at bongos, also often played with the conga drums in salsa music. We looked at the djembe, which is from West Africa, Guinea and southern Mali, Susu and Malinke people, wood, rope, and natural skin. 3 tones on all of those drums. We also looked at the Cajon, which is the Cajon started in Peru, actually. I didn't mention that earlier. Used throughout the Caribbean, used in Spanish flamenco music. Couple different tones there. Drum set in a box. Really great instrument. We looked at a variety of handheld percussion. A couple of the key takeaways with the handheld is that you can create a lot of success, stability, and consistency by encouraging your students to have a holding hand and a striking hand, a playing hand, especially for your younger students. You can get at least 2 tones out of a lot of the blocks and the bells. You can make your own instruments from different things. You can use found sounds for a lot of the metal or the shaker sounds. Of course, make your own. I've got videos on that as well, how to make your own percussion. And then we learned which instruments belong to which genres or which geographical areas. And that was another thing that I hope you'll take away from this, so that when you see instruments, you're shopping for instruments, or you have instruments in your classroom, you might want to categorize them by style or region, or at least you'll know which instruments belong in which ensembles. And then you can create your traditional Latin ensembles or Caribbean. You can create a Brazilian ensemble with correct instruments. You can create a West African ensemble with correct instruments, and you can also do something else completely different, and you'll know that you are. So I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for hanging out this long. I'm Kalani. If you'd like to reach me, you can email me at kalanidas@gmail.com. My website is kalanimusic.com. The YouTube channel is World Drum Club, and the curriculum is Kalani's World Rhythms, published by Hal Leonard. Thanks for joining me, and best wishes to you and your students in all your musical endeavors and pursuits.